A barefoot, dirty girl walks into the city's most exclusive restaurant. Rich diners gasp in horror. Security moves to throw her out. But she walks straight to one table, where a millionaire sits with his paralyzed 12-year-old son in a wheelchair. In front of everyone, she says 5 words that change everything. "Give me food, I'll heal him." The millionaire laughs, calls her crazy, has her dragged out. But 30 seconds after she touches the boy's legs, he feels sensation for the first time in years. The father launches a desperate search across the entire city. When he finally finds her, he discovers a truth that destroys him. She's not a homeless stranger. She's his daughter, the one he abandoned and threw out 12 years ago. What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. The richest and most feared man in the city was having lunch with his wheelchair-bound son in one of the most exclusive restaurants, surrounded by luxury and discreet glances. Suddenly, a barefoot girl with a serene face and intense eyes crossed the dining room with a firm step, as if the world belonged to her. She stopped in front of them, and without hesitation said in a soft but powerful voice, "Give me food and I'll heal your son." The millionaire let out a mocking laugh, believing he was facing just another crazy person. But seconds later, reality shattered before his eyes, and the impossible began to happen. The sun beat down hard on the tinted glass windows of Arm Restaurant, a place where silence was worth more than flavor, and where a smile cost more than the most expensive dish. There, at a center table, sat James Harrison, dressed in an impeccable navy blue suit, and his son, Michael, a 12-year-old boy in a wheelchair, his face still, his eyes wandering between nothing and the perfectly aligned silverware. The maître d' approached for the 3rd time, nervous, asking if everything was to their liking. James didn't even look at him. "It's lukewarm. Tell the chef I'm not paying for hospital food," he said without looking up from his cell phone, his tone dry, his voice low but sharp. Michael, with his hands on his lap, watched in silence. There was no tension between father and son. There was something colder than that. Distance. That kind of absence that isn't felt in meters, but in years unspoken, in hugs never given, in silences that weigh like concrete. A waiter approached to serve more water. He spilled a drop on the linen napkin. James looked at him with such disdain that the young man paled, apologized, and walked away stumbling. "Dad," Michael whispered for the first time, breaking the rigidity of the lunch. James looked up, but not with tenderness, with impatience. "What? Do you remember what it was like to run?" James remained silent, lowered his gaze to his plate, pretended not to have heard. Michael looked back toward the window, resigned, and then it happened. The main door of the restaurant, thick glass, burst open abruptly. A tense silence took over the place. Diners put down their silverware. Waiters stopped. A barefoot girl, with feet black with dirt and clothes older than the restaurant's decor, walked with firm steps, without fear, between marble tables and wines worth thousands of dollars. Her hair was long and disheveled. She had big, black, deep eyes, but there was no sadness in them. There was something more disturbing. Calm. "Hold on, girl. You can't be here," shouted a security guard as he stood up from his chair. She didn't stop, her gaze fixed directly on the center table. "She's a homeless person." "Someone call the police!" exclaimed a woman with a pearl necklace, horrified. James looked up, annoyed. His brow furrowed as he saw her approaching. The girl stopped right in front of them. She looked at Michael first, then at James. "Give me food and I'll cure your son." The silence became even thicker. James let out a dry, sarcastic laugh. "What did you say?" "You have more than enough. He needs to walk. I'm hungry, and I can help him." James looked her up and down. It repulsed him that a girl like that even breathed the same air as him. His voice became a blade. "This is a joke. Who sent you?" "No one sent me. I came because I felt it," she responded with a serene tone that contrasted with the tension in the air. "Get her out now." James shouted to the guards. The men approached. One grabbed her arm, but before he could take her away, she crouched down, extended a hand toward Michael's legs, and touched them gently. "Sometimes the miracle takes a little while," she whispered. And then they dragged her out. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just turned once more and looked at Michael with a small smile. Then she disappeared among the scandal, the outraged voices, and the uncomfortable looks of the wealthy. James snorted. How ridiculous. How far have we fallen in this country? Dad? Said Michael with wide eyes. What now? What now what? I feel something in my legs. James looked at him. Immediately he stood up, moved his son's chair, and crouched down. What did you say? I feel tingling. I don't know, like my feet are itching. James rolled up the boy's pant leg, took off a shoe, then a sock. He touched the sole of his foot. Do you feel this? Yes, a lot. A chill ran down James's spine. He stood up abruptly, knocking the chair backward. Where's the girl? Find her now! The restaurant erupted in confusion. Waiters running, customers protesting, managers trying to calm the millionaire who seemed to have lost his mind. James ran out to the street, looked in all directions. There were no signs of the girl, just noise, cars, and different people. He went back inside, grabbed his cell phone, dialed his head of security. I need the recordings from all the cameras. This place, the parking lot, nearby streets. Find that girl. Use all resources. No one stops until you find her, he hung up. He sat down in front of Michael, who now looked at him differently. There was no fear in his gaze, there was hope. Dad, what was that? James didn't respond. He picked up his glass of water, but his hand trembled so much that he dropped the glass to the floor, shattering it. For the first time in years, he had no answers. And for the first time in his life, he was afraid. The city lights flickered from the height of the Harrison mansion, a place where luxury left no room for memory. James paced back and forth in his study with his cell phone in one hand and an untouched glass of whiskey in the other. And the cameras? He asked for the fourth time to his head of security. Nothing? The girl doesn't appear leaving through the main entrance, nor on the alley cameras. It's like she vanished. James gritted his teeth, hung up without saying goodbye. He'd gone 3 nights without sleeping well. He'd watched the recordings over and over. He even hired analysts to track all the street children in the area. He sent rewards to foundations, spoke with police, even with homeless people. No one knew anything, and that drove him crazy. Michael wouldn't stop talking about Lily. He said her name as if she were someone he had always known. Dad. I swear it wasn't my imagination, he repeated insistently. James didn't respond, just watched him with a knot in his stomach. Sometimes, when his son slept, he would pull back the blankets and touch his legs. The boy felt more and more. And if it was true, if it was a miracle, he had to find her. Days later, one of the private investigators brought a lead. A girl with similar characteristics had been seen in a low-income neighborhood on the east side of the city. James went in person. The streets were narrow, dusty, full of improvised houses with sheet metal and unpainted bricks. The black luxury SUV stood out like a swan among chickens. Children pointed at it. Some adults closed their doors. Others just watched with suspicion. James got out, serious, with dark glasses. He showed a digitally edited photo of Lily to a woman selling tamales. Have you seen her? The lady squinted. I don't give information for free, mister. James pulled out a bill and extended it. She lives over there, said the woman, pointing to a house of wood and unpainted concrete. With her mom. Her name is Maria, I think. James's heart stopped for a second. He walked toward the house, knocked firmly on the door. A woman's voice responded from inside. Who is it? I'm James Harrison. I want to talk to you. There was a long, very long silence. Then, slow footsteps. The door opened, and there she was. Maria, with a more mature face, hair pulled back carelessly, a simple blouse, and a firm gaze. It can't be, said James almost in a whisper. I also thought I'd never see you again, she responded coldly. James tried to enter, but she blocked the entrance. What are you doing here? I need to know something. It's about the girl, the one who appeared at the restaurant. Her name is Lily, right? Maria lowered her gaze. She didn't respond. She's your daughter. Yes. James took a step back. She's mine. Maria held his gaze. There were no tears, just a mixture of pride and accumulated pain. Yes. She's your daughter. James, and I didn't come to tell you before because you yourself threw me out when I needed you. A sharp noise pierced James's mind, as if his past was shouting at him all at once. He saw himself more than a decade ago, young, ambitious, with expensive suits and frozen emotions. Maria was then a housekeeper at his home. She was 20 years old, always smiling, always attentive. One night, under the influence of alcohol and ego, lines were crossed. Months later, she appeared trembling with an envelope in her hand and news on her lips. I'm pregnant. I'm not taking responsibility for this. Leave. That's what he told her, and he never thought about her again. Until now. Why didn't you look for me? Asked James, more as a defense than remorse. For what? So you'd give me money and leave? We didn't need handouts. We needed respect. James clenched his fists. She touched my son, Michael, and since that day he's been feeling his legs. Maria wasn't surprised. Yes, I know. What do you mean? Lily has a gift. I don't know how to explain it. Since she was very little, she's felt people, emotions, pain. Sometimes when she touches someone, something changes. I knew it since she was a baby. But we never used it to ask for anything. It's part of who she is. James was stunned. His head couldn't rationalize what he was hearing. But deep down he believed it. Because he had seen it. Because his son was changing. I need to see her. Please, he said finally. No, not like this. What do you mean? You can't arrive like the great millionaire lord demanding to see her just because it's convenient for you now. You're not her father because you gave the sperm. You're her father if you truly change. James didn't know what to say. At that moment, a soft little voice sounded from inside the house. Mom. Who is it? The door opened a bit more. The girl's black eyes met his. There was no fear or resentment, just that same calm that had disarmed him at the restaurant. Hi, James, she said, as if she had known him forever. And then she disappeared behind the door again. James returned to his car with a knot in his chest. The driver didn't dare say anything. The silence of the drive was absolute. For the first time in his life, James Harrison didn't know what to do. And deep in his mind, a question tormented him. How do you ask forgiveness from someone you never looked for, but who gave you the greatest miracle of your life? James stopped in front of the door again. It was the second time in a week he'd knocked on that old, splintered wood with more respect than any boardroom table he'd commanded in his life. He wasn't wearing his usual suit, nor did he bring bodyguards. Just him, a simple shirt, and a face full of something new. Humility. The door opened, and Maria looked at him with a furrowed brow. You again. I didn't come to demand or shout. I just want to talk and ask you a favor. Maria let him in without a word. The house was still small but clean, with the aroma of coffee and freshly baked bread. Lily was sitting on the floor drawing on an old sheet with broken crayons. When she saw him, she looked up with that same unshakable serenity. Hi, James. Hi, Lily, he said, not knowing how to look at her. Are you here for Michael? James was surprised. Yes. How do you know? I dreamed it. Maria crossed her arms uncomfortably. I don't like this. I don't like the idea that now everyone wants something from her just because she has a gift. She's not an attraction. She's my daughter. James nodded sincerely. You're right. I don't want to use her. I want to understand. I want Michael to see her. Because since she touched him, something changed in him. And not just physically. He's happier, more human. I'd never seen him like that. Lily stood up and approached. It's okay. I can go. But only for today. The SUV moved slowly along the roads toward the mansion. Lily rode in silence, observing everything through the window, as if seeing another planet. When they arrived, the employees opened the door like automatons, but their eyes fixed on the barefoot girl getting out of the vehicle as if she'd been born in another world. Michael was in his room. When he saw her, he smiled with an emotion he hadn't shown even at Christmas. Lily, she approached, touched his face gently. How have you been feeling? I feel more than ever. In my legs, in my arms, in everything. She crouched in front of him, took his knees between her small hands, closed her eyes, and murmured something James couldn't understand. A chill ran through the room. "Done," she said. "The rest depends on you." That night, Michael woke up with a strange sensation in his feet. He sat up, lowered his legs from the bed, and trembling, put one foot on the floor, then the other, and he stood up. He didn't fall. He didn't need support. He took 2-3 steps before the screams woke the entire house. James came running, and when he saw him, he froze. He didn't know whether to cry, shout, or fall to his knees. He just managed to look at his son walking toward him. "Dad, I'm walking." "My God," James whispered, with eyes shining with tears he didn't know he could cry. The doctors couldn't explain anything. The rehabilitation had been nil. There had been no progress in years. And suddenly this boy who was condemned to immobility was walking on his own feet. But Lily didn't want to stay. "I came to heal, not to stay where I was never welcome," she said as she gathered her things. James tried to stop her. "Please stay. We can give you a room, clothes, food." "I don't need that. What I need can't be bought. You know that." And she left. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't need to. The following days were different. James, for the first time in years, visited homes of former employees. He sought out people he had fired, humiliated, ignored. He carried handwritten notes asking for forgiveness. He left unsigned checks and promises signed with real tears. One afternoon, he returned to Maria's house. He brought bread, books, and a letter. "I've started to change. It's not charity, it's the beginning. I just wanted you to know." Lily looked at him with serene eyes, but this time softer. "That's better." Maria didn't invite him in. Michael also changed. He asked his father not to return to his private schools full of empty luxuries. He wanted to know his sister's world. He wanted to help. He wanted to learn. And he wanted to walk, not just with his legs, but with his heart. James listened, and for the first time said yes, without hesitation. One night, while James was organizing donations in his study, Lily appeared without warning. "Hi," she said, interrupting his concentration. "What are you doing here?" "I came to tell you something before I leave for a while." James approached with his soul in suspense. "It's not charity," she said. "It's real change or nothing. What you did was good, but if tomorrow you go back to the same, all of this was useless. I didn't come to heal bodies. I came to touch hearts. And yours is barely waking up." James knelt before her, something he had never done in his life. He took her hands. "I swear I'm going to change. Not out of guilt, out of love, out of respect." Lily looked at him as if she could see beyond his words. Then she nodded softly. "Then the miracle will continue." And without saying more, she turned and disappeared down the hallway like a shadow that leaves light in its path. Deep in his soul, James knew nothing would ever be the same. And for the first time in a long time, he felt alive. Several months passed since that night when Lily said goodbye with words that lingered. Harrison Corp offices were no longer filled with expensive suits and shouts of ambition. Now they were part of the New Paths Foundation, an organization dedicated to providing housing, education, and dignified employment to vulnerable families. Where there had been marble walls, there were now murals painted by children. Where they had only spoken of profitability, they now spoke of justice, dignity, and reparation. James was no longer a businessman. One cloudy morning, James knocked on Maria's door again, this time not with remorse but with hope. Maria received him without expression. There was no longer resentment in her gaze, but neither was their blind trust. "I brought something," said James, extending a folder to her. "What is it?" "Papers. A house in your name, in a quiet area, near schools. A scholarship for Lily, and a job for you at the foundation, in the single mother's support area. It's not charity. It's what I should have done a long time ago." Maria opened the documents, read each line in silence, then looked up. "If I accept this, it's not because you're giving it to me. It's because my daughter deserves it, and because I'm worth it too." "I know," he responded without hesitation. "That's why you're here, not out of pity, out of justice." She nodded. A silent, solid acceptance. Lily watched from the back of the room. She said nothing, just drew on a blank sheet. A house, a tree, 3 figures holding hands. A smile appeared on her face, as if she knew something bigger was being completed. That same night, Lily appeared unannounced at the Harrison mansion. The sky was clear, but something special hung in the air. She walked through the garden as if she had never left. She knocked on the door and Michael himself opened it. "Lily," she smiled. "Can I come in?" "Of course. We were waiting for you." Lily went up to the boy's room. He was sleeping peacefully with a serenity he had never had. She approached, sat beside him, and placed her small hand on his chest. "You're almost there," she whispered. A faint glow seemed to cross the room. There were no lightning bolts, no angels, no celestial voices, just a girl touching her brother's soul. At dawn, James woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. But when he went out, he saw Michael walking alone, without help, without canes, without effort. "Dad!" James ran to him, hugged him, lifted him off the ground without containing his tears. "You did it, son. You did it. It wasn't just me. It was her." They both looked toward the entrance. Lily was there with her simple dress, her disheveled hair, and her gaze full of peace. "Thank you, daughter," said James for the first time with an open heart. "The real miracle isn't walking," she said serenely. "It's changing." Then she hugged Michael, smiled once more, and left. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't need to. The following days were full of movement. Maria and Lily moved to their new house. Michael began attending a public school by his own choice. He wanted to be near real people. He wanted to understand. James kept changing. He visited communities, spoke with young people. Not as a redeemer, but as an example that the soul can also be rehabilitated. One day, at a rural school supported by the foundation, a girl with chronic pain was touched by another girl and improved the next day. No one knew who had touched her. They only said it was a barefoot girl with black eyes who smiled without speaking. The legend of Lily began to travel through streets, schools, neighborhoods. But she never allowed herself to be seen in interviews, never accepted cameras. Not because she was shy, but because her path wasn't to be seen. It was to be felt. James, now elderly, would write a book years later. He titled it Walking Again. But in the dedication, he didn't name businessmen, doctors, or friends. He only wrote, "To her, the girl who taught me." I hope you enjoyed this story. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, God bless you, and see you in the next story.